There we go. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for taking a little bit of time this afternoon for our workshop. So for those of you who do not know me, I am Treasure Edwards. I am the director for the Society for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Business, SDEIB. And we are here today to talk about money-making moves and a financial literacy discussion. So just to give you all a little bit of an idea, in preparing for this meeting, there were a couple of stats that I wanted to share. So from 2022, 19% of Americans report spending more than their income in the course of a year. Women are less likely than men to be offered education around finances, and only 24% of millennials, understand just the simple topics around financial education. So in Mindy, I would call an underrepresented community in the United States, as well as outside of the US, education around, I would say money topics isn't as easily accessible. So before we dive into our actual workshop, I wanted to introduce our organization again, and I would say reintroduce for any of you who are not aware of who we are. So we are a student-run organization that is housed within Robinson, and our goal is to really establish a community through education and empowerment and also networking opportunities all around DEI. Our vision is to really empower all the future leaders, that's all of you, to engage in a number of these discussions that are also over DEI. So for today, we will hear from our guest speaker. We will have time for audience Q&A, and then at the end of the call, we will give an opportunity for anybody who wants to share any key takeaways as we wrap up. So again, just a couple of norms and expectations. We would encourage you all to keep your camera on, hold all questions until the end. You can also utilize the chat. And if you could also have your lines muted unless you are speaking. One person there. So next, we want to introduce our speaker of the day. So we have our very own Kenyatta Myers. He is actually a leader within our student organization and manages all of our money and all of our money matters for our organization. He has 4 years of experience as a registered financial advisor and continues to make impact in the industry, focusing on not only ensuring that everyone has access to education around money, but that he takes it one step further and ensuring that they actually use that knowledge to create an foundation for generational wealth. Mr. Myers takes his role as a wealth manager very seriously and hopes to educate individuals. And so that is what we will touch on today. So with that, Kenyatta, I will actually turn the call over to you.
Thank you very much, Treasure. I definitely appreciate that. So once again, I'm Kenyatta Myers, and I represent, the Society for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Business, and also a financial consultant. Next slide. So before I get into anything, just wanted to give a few disclaimers. This is a student-led event. All topics mentioned in this seminar are not to be considered advice or recommendations. This is just a general overview of, ways to approach finances, in order to get a more specific, personalized, financial plan based on your situation. Consult a licensed financial advisor, and they'll be able to help you with specific things regarding your personal finances. Next slide. So what I wanted to start with, principles of financial knowledge. 2 things, budgeting and planning, and savings versus investing. We'll start with budgeting and planning, being able to create a plan for your goals. Just like, you have a goal once you graduate college, once you graduate Georgia State, your money should be treated the same. Have a goal for, what you want to do and how to get there. Incorporate all of your financial health facets, your savings, your checkings, money that you might inherit, just different things to where you think your finances will be utilized and also gain. Giving you a holistic picture of where you're at now, just giving yourself, that grace of, I'm here now, this is where I want to be, how do I get there? And then with that, you include your savings versus investing. Centered around, investing and a return on getting a return on your investment, just like college, to where you'll get a return, treating your money the same way as far as helping it make it work for you. Focus on money movements, investment advice, different money markets accounts, just different aspects of how to utilize that money in order to provide a better future for yourselves and your families. Next slide. So like I said before, holistic in practice, think about your current financial goals and risk tolerance. I want to go, for example, I want a goal of retiring at the age of 65. What can I do to get there? How can I set up a plan? What is my risk tolerance? The money that I make now, how much can I risk now in order to make up for those risks or those losses tomorrow or the next day or the next year? Understanding that the higher the risk, the higher the reward, but there's also a way where you can mitigate both along your financial journey. Including all pieces of your financial life, just things that you might not consider. In 5 years, I want to buy a car. In 10 years, I want to buy a house. Not just your current situation, but how does it look throughout your life? I want to, in the future, buy a home in my home country, in my hometown, in my home country, wherever you are. Just being able to create that plan, and then putting that plan in action. How to do that? Consult with your financial professionals. Consult with people who've done the same things or been in your shoes or are in the shoes that you want to be. Consult with them so you can see how they got there and what their journey is. Next slide. So Mythbusters, I like to go over those because a lot of people have misconceptions about, when can I save? How much do I need to save? Where do I start? People say, oh, I'm too young to start saving. I'll save when I get more money, when I get, in the position that I want. In a lot of ways, it does make sense as far as in that short-term thinking. But what I implore you to do is think long-term. The sooner you save, the more money you'll be able to have when you do go to retire. Like say for this graph, for example, you save $600 a month at the age of 22. And by the time you reach the retirement age of 65, you'll have more versus thinking I'll save when I start my career. You'll have to save more. And because you have a shorter time period, it won't compound as much. We like to say, the magic of compound interest. Saving money now in a certain account will allow you to have a lot more than you save when you do go to withdraw on that money. So essentially, start now. You don't have to have a bunch of money. You don't need to be in a Fortune 500 company. You can save $5, $10 a month and just build on that. The goal is to start and have a plan and stick to it. Now, another thing I want to go over for people are emergency funds. Having an emergency fund is key to understanding how to save, because if you start saving now without really having that cushion, if something happens, you have a medical expense, you have your car breaks down, or anything of that nature that you don't expect, you'll have to dip into those savings, which will set you back a little bit, depending on how much you need. So having an emergency fund will allow you to continue to have that savings account, you to continue to save and invest in an account. So before you do anything, really start to focus on, an emergency fund. It could be how much money does it take to pay my bills for a month, for 2 months. Just starting something as simple as that will get you on the right path to creating that cushion. So you can properly be able to save for retirement or to save for, whatever goal you have. Next slide. So once again, so for people who think that, I don't want to save, I don't want to, put my money into an investment account, I just have it in a regular savings account that I have at my bank. We implore you to do that. We want you to do that so you can have that safety net, that emergency fund, somewhere where it's easy to access. But with this graph, what it's telling you that saving $1,000 first, keeping it, or investing $1,000 first, keeping it in a savings account. Now the blue line is investing your money into, say the stock market or something that has a higher interest rate than a savings account. Will in turn allow you to have more money in that long term, save more money in that retirement versus keeping it in a savings account to where the interest rates are really low. Your money really doesn't do much work for you. It's just somewhere to keep it until you need it. That's why, putting an emergency fund in a savings account is always good. And that middle gray line is inflation. Something today doesn't cost the same thing as it does tomorrow. It's a good example of how inflation affects us every day. Within the last few years, we all know inflation has been extremely high. So spending money and saving money has become extremely difficult. And that's another reason why investing your money is also a good way to outpace inflation. In the long term, really getting into the fact of my $1,000, I want my $1,000 to be worth more today than it or more tomorrow than it is today, and really being able to utilize that money when you need it. Next slide. So here's more evidence. What I like to also tell people is, one of their woes is, what about the stock market crash in 2008 or, when the pandemic happened? Why would I invest my money when all I feel like it's going to do is go down? That's understandable in the short term. But what I like to tell you is stay in line with your long-term goals and create that plan, because that allow you to stick to it and really understand, the benefits of, investing your money versus put it into a savings account. This graph right here shows, you see the blue line, which is investing your money. And around 2008, 2009 is when we had the financial crisis. Now, obviously it went down, your value of your money went down below what you would in a savings account. But in a year's time, in 2 years, it actually went back up and outpaced that savings interest rate. So really what that's telling you is, you may have short-term dips in, investing your money, but over the long term, it always outpaces, the regular savings account that you might find in a bank or a CD or anything like that, to where, it doesn't necessarily grow as fast. And goes back to the more risk, the more reward. We take those risks early in life so we can see the reward and benefit later on. And be able to say that, we're happy we outlasted that. We're happy we stayed the course, because in short term, it's hard. I know a lot of people don't like to see their money fluctuate, but in that long-term plan, if you really educate yourself or, find someone who knows how to manage money, they'll really be able to tell you and show you and educate you actually on how to invest, what you should do at certain stages of your life to really prosper and live the retirement that you want. Next slide. So another thing I want to talk about, are the credit card myths. Understanding that, credit cards can be really good or can be really bad. It really depends on how you manage them. And also with that goes hand in hand with the budget. Creating a budget is one of the biggest eye openers to people, because it gives you the opportunity to sit down and really self-examine yourself and where I am in my life, how is my spending, where do I need to, what's one thing that I need to control, Netflix bills, services that you don't use, subscriptions, just really get down to those things so you can be able to know exactly where your money's going, know exactly where you want your money to go. And then that leads me to my next thing, credit cards. Knowing that, credit cards can be a crutch, or they can lift you into, a higher credit score. And it all depends on your budget, ensuring that you're paying on time, ensuring that, you didn't bite off more than you can chew, and realizing that, they can help you earn that bigger, get better credit, allow you to get the car, the house that you want in that long term by just sitting right now and managing that, and knowing that, this is where my budget is. This is how much I have to spend on credit cards. This is how much I have to spend on groceries. Just different things where what your family's spending, because, like I like to tell people, starting a budget will help you. And if you have a family, realizing that starting it at a young age will allow them to know how to manage money, know where the money is going. Instead of saying we don't have McDonald's money, we can always see where, if we really do or not, or if, we just don't feel like it. Next slide, please. So I like to get this roadmap. So the first thing in this roadmap is formalizing your financial goals, realizing where you want to be, where you are, and how to get there. Creating a budget and following it. Once you know your goals and know how to get there, what will it take within your current budget to get there? Now, sometimes people aren't able to reach that right now in their current budget. So you still have that plan, but right now your budget is to still manage the funds that you have coming in and going out, not necessarily always reaching that top level goal as soon as possible. I can have a top level goal of wanting to get a Porsche, but right now, because I'm a student, that's not necessarily in my near future. But understanding your budget as you go into a higher income bracket will help you realize, when can I afford that? How will the payments be? Just different aspects that you will already know when going to the dealership and really being able to negotiate a price. The third step is paying yourself through automated savings. I cannot stress this enough. Always pay yourself first, because you worked hard for your money. You earned it. This is yours. And also being realistic. You don't want to pay yourself a large amount out of your paycheck and then look at your bills and say, I have to dip into my savings. Is realizing what you can save, looking at your budget and knowing this is the amount of money that I want to save. This is the amount of money that I can save, and setting up a different account to where you don't even see that money sometimes when it comes out of your paycheck on the 1st or 15th or whenever you get paid. It's really key. Out of sight, out of mind. It's really a good way to operate. You obviously want to check on your finances from time to time, but that out of sight, out of mind aspect will allow you to set up a plan and follow that plan without even really, putting too much in motion every week, every month. And before you know it, you'll be able to reach your goals, because, it just takes that consistency. And building your retirement early. So one thing I also wanted to touch on was understanding your retirement and how you can negotiate with your job and, understand their compensation. Things like 401ks, Roth 401ks, IRAs, individual retirement accounts are all good ways to save for your retirement, and, you get tax benefits as well. So on some of these, definitely talk to a tax professional for, more specific benefits that you'll get individually. But, people get tax benefits from 401ks, from IRAs, really to utilize that and help you out with your savings through your long term. So once again, knowing those things when you're on the job site, job website, and looking at how their compensation package is, and understanding everything that they have, from, medical insurance to 401ks to insurance, regular insurance, knowing this will help me with my retirement, this will help me with my budget, and also my savings, is really key to, building that retirement early and going into a job or into a career that will take care of you in the long term versus just that short-term big paycheck. And last but not least, limit high interest liabilities. Those high interest credit cards you have, those, maybe personal loans, just different things to where, maybe even student loans for some people, those high interest liabilities to where it's eating more money up by paying the interest before you actually pay the principal down. Realizing these are the things that I can either consolidate or I need to prioritize in knowing what to save, knowing what to spend, and getting those down in a timely manner. Because, Rome wasn't built in a day. We all wanted everything to happen so quickly. We want the quickest phone. We want the quickest computer. We want the fastest car. Understanding your finances is a slow and steady adventure, I like to call it, where you learn a lot about yourself. You learn who you really are through money, because, some things people aren't attached to, but money is one of them that they are. And, it can build friendships. It can ruin friendships. It can do a lot of things, negative and positive, because it all revolves around money sometimes. Next slide. What's in it for you? Now, the benefits of, that wealth management, knowing how your finances are moving, you have more power and knowledge of your financial health. I referenced earlier, when you're going to negotiate with, a dealership and getting a car loan, you know exactly where you are, you know exactly how much you make, you know exactly how much you can spend. So that puts you on the power side, I would say, of a negotiation when it comes to your financial health. And that goes the same with, negotiating your salary, knowing how much will it take for me to live a comfortable life? How much will it take for me to live a life if I had to eliminate a few things? Also, how much will it take for me to live the finer life, to have the finer things in lives? Knowing that power and knowledge will ensure that you're on top of, negotiation, you're on top of your finance, you're on top of things, and really giving you that peace of mind. Next, building a safety net for unforeseen emergencies and retirement. Knowing how much I need to put in my emergency fund by creating that budget, for emergencies, knowing, I have some things that I want to do, and here are the risks that are presented to me in doing that, how to manage those risks, and building your finances and building your wealth. And retirement. Also, we talked about that, understanding how much I want to put in order to retire at a certain age. Here's what I want to do at a certain age. There's calculators and things where it can almost predict how much I need to save and how much I need to save. And if I save this much, how much could I potentially have in retirement based on different parameters. Last but not least, creating a plan for financial freedom. We all are seeking, so I wouldn't say we all, but it's a good thing to seek financial freedom, not have to worry about where my next paycheck is coming from. Being able to have everything you own on auto pay. That is a wonderful thing. At least I think so, because I don't like to deal with bills. And so having that budget will allow you to say, okay, this is how much I can put in, this is how much I can spend. So, having things automated and taken care of for me will ease that stress, ease my mind on different things within life. Next slide, please. BPE, build, protect, enjoy. Build your wealth, understand what it takes to invest, to save, to reach your retirement goal. Protect it, knowing what you need to protect that goal, having proper insurance, understanding taxes to some degree, knowing where to go to talk to different people and say different and have different conversations so you're more knowledgeable about these things. And the reason we do all this is to enjoy it. Learn how to, take that trip when you want to, go on a cruise, be that person that your family can count on for financial information, maybe even for financial, assistance sometimes. Once again, that road to financial freedom is long, it's prosperous, and definitely taking that journey will help you out in the long run, will help you, build more confidence in yourself and how to go about life and learning how to do things on your own and with your family. Next slide. So Q&A, I know you have a few questions. Definitely, use the raise your hand feature on and wait for Treasure to kind of call on you. But like I said, Q&A, and if I don't get to your questions now, you can always, see me on campus. I'm on LinkedIn and everywhere and be able to really get those answered.
Thank you so much, Kenyatta. I'm going to stop sharing just so we can all see each other's wonderful faces. So for those of you, feel free to also type in the chat, but would encourage you to unmute yourselves, raise your hand, and ask Kenyatta any questions that you might have. Anyone have anything as we? Fatima, yes.
Yeah, so I know from looking at your PowerPoint slide that you talked about, students when they're getting started in their 20s. What about older students that already have families? How should they change maybe things in their budget or either pivot to plan? Because, some of those students are, going to school, getting their degrees, and they're getting into income brackets that they possibly haven't been in before. So what are your suggestions or pathways for those students?
Yes, that's a good question. So what I would suggest, it's first a family affair, helping, depending on how old your children are, or, if you have a spouse, really getting the family involved in your holistic financial plan. Because it's one thing to know yourself, what you need to do and how you need to do it. And it's basically putting the blinders off of your family so they can understand also what I need to do, what is our current situation. And just like you, when you have a goal, you want to reach it because it's an amazing goal. Include those people, include your family, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, cousins, parents, include them into that situation as well. So, the more the merrier. The more they know your goals, the more they'll be able to keep you on track. Really having that accountability partner, I would definitely say, is key for families, because you can get so caught up in the day-to-day of I have this or I have that going on that you don't realize you could lose track of your goals, especially if someone isn't holding you accountable for it. And also feel free to use your classmates, your colleagues, your best friend. It's really, because honestly, your best friend might be the most honest person in your life versus your family just trying to ease their way into saying you need to stop doing this, or you need to start doing that. And sometimes your friend knows more than your family does. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, some of the aspects of it, but I was thinking for people that may be starting a little bit later, or they may not have made as much as they need to make over the years. And so now they're in a different income, bracket period. They're raising, they already have children, they've already had families. So just the best plan to put in place when you're already caring for other people. It's not just you, but you have other lives that depend, on your survival also. Okay.
So I guess I think I get it. So you're trying to figure out what's the best way to save and, how to start that savings once you already kind of establish. Okay, so with that, I would say understanding your budget, understanding how much you can save, where you need to cut costs at, because and having that difficult conversation, because when you're already establishing and kind of that routine, having that difficult conversation to say, okay, I need to start saving. What is the best way for me to do that? Even if it's starting with a savings account in order to get that routine. So what I suggest, put it into, if you have a paycheck, put a little bit of money into your savings account. And once you have enough, understand when you have time to learn how to invest that, learn how to make your money grow for you. Really setting that routine and being able to know where you're at, where you're going, and how to get there. And for some people, even if you can't reach your specific goals, tailor it to, what are the things my family needs? What are the things that my family needs to accomplish per se? You want to set up money for your kids so they don't go through that situation that you're in, so they don't find themselves. So really just understanding where I need to start, how I need to go about it, and starting that routine.
I would just add to that as well. It's never too late to start, right? So I want everybody kind of on the call to, I don't want you to think like, oh, I didn't start when I was 22, so I'm doomed, right? I'm never going to be able to. I'm not ever going to be able to, get to that space. So as Kenyatta said, definitely, you just got to start, right? You have to start somewhere, even if it's, $10 a month, $20 a month. Everybody can put aside $20 a month. If you're eating out, if you're going to a restaurant, take that money and take it in interest bearing, right? Want to make sure that's earning interest. And like it was mentioned earlier, pay yourself, right? Make sure that money is going into another account. If it's auto draft, that's even more awesome because you don't even, miss it really. So it's never too late to start that. Just, on one hand, you have to look at your goals, and then on the other hand, how can I actually reach those? Joel, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Thank you, Kenyatta, for the great presentation. Okay, so my question is, how do I know it's a good time to invest, considering the economic crisis and inflation rate? So for instance, I have some money saved up and I'm willing to invest, and maybe we are not in the right economic standards, or there's inflation. Do I have to wait till things get better? Is it advisable to keep saving till things get better, or I should just start investing from any time at all?
That is a good question. So what I like to tell people is start now, start as soon as you can. And the reason I tell people that is because, one, you can never time the market. You don't know when it's going up, when it's going down. But like the graph I showed earlier, through that long-term planning, you see, 10, 15, 20 years that it outpaces, a regular savings account. It outpaces inflation. So really starting now and knowing the goal for that money is retirement. Now, another thing I'll touch on is different pots of money have different goals. If you plan on buying, something that's cost $1,000 in the next 3 months, I would recommend just keep it into a savings account because you'll need that money, that specific amount, in the next 3 months. If you need money for retirement, and right now you're 35, you won't need that money for another 30 years. So the longer the time frame, the more, I guess I wouldn't say, the longer the time frame, the better off you are putting it in there and compound interest saving into an investment account, because you don't know when you can start. You don't know when the market's going to be good, when the market's going to be bad in the short term. But overall, is when you'll get the true benefit of having a retirement account. The reason why people do 401ks is because through the long term, it's more advantageous to put it there because, it does grow over time the longer you have it in there. So in short, start putting it and investing it now if you don't need it in the near future. But like I said, definitely talk to a financial advisor to really get that goal of what specific things you need to do based on your individual situation. But definitely invest now. Don't try to time the market, and it'll work out for your benefit for sure.
All right, thank you. And in the future, if I need any advice, I'm sure I can speak to you.
Yes. So
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, go ahead, Robbie.
Okay, so this is probably a whole session on its own, but what would you say are some good general tips of what to invest in? I'm thinking like mutual funds or index funds, whatever's in the S&P 500, or would you are thinking more of like certificate of deposits?
yeah, so like I said, what I would say is diversity is key. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Whether that's mutual funds or ETFs are good ways where people really start. What specifically to invest in is also based on your individual situation, but really stick to these things: diversity within your funds, when you'll need the money. CDs are more so towards the savings accounts. So if you put a CD, if you have money that you won't need for another year or 2 years, and you want to keep that principal, kind of have that money for, like, say, a down payment for a house. Really look into those investments to where it doesn't fluctuate as much in that short term. But like I said, if you need something for your retirement, diversify mutual funds, ETFs, different things like that, to where you don't have all of your eggs in one basket, and it's not just dependent on one type of stock or one stock.
Thank you.
I just add there, Robbie, it's also about risk, and how much risk do you want to take on, need to take on, versus how and actually when you're also going to use the money too. So there's a ton of options out there. I don't know, Kenyatta, if you were going to talk about a couple of takeaways, but there's a number of companies that you can buy individual stocks. You can buy a lot of different things. So I would say, again, it's just all about is your end goal, and starting somewhere.
Yes. And don't be afraid to get started. Open up it's called a brokerage account, at your local bank, at whatever bank you're with, to really get an idea of how to invest. What does it take? What does it take? Because, some people, just for an example, if you invest in, for example, one particular stock, and you see it's up one day or down the next day, and you want to take your money out, just understand that it takes 3 days to get that money out. So just things as simple as that, to really understand what it takes and what goes in and out of investing, versus just having it in the savings account, to where you can literally go to the bank and get all of your money out in the savings account the same day.
Any other questions for Kenyatta?
Yeah,
Anybody want? Oh yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Kenyatta. You are so great. Oh my God. I just took out some money from my Amazon stock this morning, and last morning, and today I checked and the prices went up, and I'm regretting now.
That happens sometimes, yes.
And I was wondering if I have to pay taxes on the income I got from this stock market. Do I have to pay taxes on that?
So usually with that, you do get certain forms at the end of the year, if you do have tax consequences. For specific things, I would definitely talk to a tax advisor. But usually, when you have those fluctuations with money that you didn't necessarily put in, so you put in $1,000 and it was raised to 110, you sometimes will have to face consequences on money that was not specifically yours and you didn't already pay taxes on it. But like I said, it's really because the tax codes are so complex, definitely talk to a tax professional, to really understand your specific situation, because, depending on that, you might not have to pay anything if you're in a certain tax bracket. So it's just different things, if this, then that. So it's like a decision tree, basically. Learn that in class. Yes, a decision tree. So that was a good question.
Alicia, I would say too, as Kenyatta mentioned, you don't want to try to time the market. So one of the things I do is I kind of have like a formula of, okay, if I buy into a stock and it goes down this much, then I'm going to get out. But if it's not within that amount, I don't want to just go look every day, like looking at it and say, okay, want to, hop in and hop out, kind of like double dutch, because that's a really hard thing. And there's people that's their whole job. They just look at stocks all day. And I don't think any of us on this call as students have the time to actually do that.
Yeah, I know. It had been 3 months, so I took it. I needed the money, so I was like, it's going up. I'm in profit, so it's fine. But I
Yeah.
didn't know it takes 3 days. I took it out yesterday, and I was trying to transfer it to my bank, and then I googled it. Why is it showing transferable cash 0? And then I realized what Kenyatta mentioned today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, you
It
have
takes a few days.
definitely have a goal for that money. You put it in there, you had a goal for it, and now you're taking it out. Just really, when you go to invest, always have a goal for each dollar. Do I want to put this in and get it out now, the next 3 months, next 3 years? So definitely have that in the back of your mind, because like you said, it fluctuates. And if it goes below what you wanted to, did you reach the time frame of how long you wanted to keep it in there, or is it just looking bad right now? So just keep those 2 questions in mind when you go to invest.
Yeah.
One thing I did forget to mention that I want to mention are the differences between Roth and traditional IRAs or 401ks. A lot of people have confusions about that. So I wanted to mention that. So with Roth 401ks, and I'll give it to you as an example, when you get your paycheck and you see all of the taxes and FICA and everything taken out, and say, for example, you have 10% coming out of your check to your Roth. What'll happen is all of the taxes will come out of your check, and then it'll take 10% from the bottom line. So, if you get paid exactly $1,000 and you have, 10% goes to taxes, the 10% will come out of the 900. Excuse me if my math is wrong, but yeah, the 10% will come out after that 10% of taxes. So in turn, when you put money into the Roth account after taxes, when you go to withdraw it in retirement, you won't have to pay taxes on that money because you've already paid taxes coming from your paycheck, so they don't double tax you. So that's the benefit, I would say, of a Roth, and just some information about it. Now, the traditional 401k, what happens is, say you want to take 10% out of that, it will take 10% out of the $1,000, and then your income will be 900. So then the taxes will be taken out. So with it being taken out before you get taxed on that, when you go to retire and you have money in that traditional 401k, you will have to pay taxes on that, because it came out before taxes. Now, the benefit of that is, say, for example, you get paid $100,000 a year and you take some money and you take a certain percentage of your 401k, a traditional 401k, it'll actually show on your, I guess, when you go to file your taxes, that you earned less, which could potentially put you in a different tax bracket. So that's the benefit of a traditional. It's kind of that, I get my benefit now every year when I go to do my taxes, versus a Roth where you more so would get a benefit from, withdrawing it in retirement and not have to worry about Uncle Sam taking any more of your money. So that's really the big difference is, you have different limits on them. So, you don't some people, if they could, they put 100% of their paycheck into the 401k. But, there are certain limits placed by the IRS. So you can, you can only put a certain amount, but that's the gist of the differences between the Roth and the traditional 401k. It's one thing I forgot to mention. So with that, any questions on that specific area or anything else that you guys thought of?
All right, Kenyatta, I was going to share a little bit about our upcoming events. I didn't know if you had any last resources or anything, and I can also email out after the call as well if you have anything that you wanted us to share.
Yeah, so like I said, use me as a resource. If you have any questions, I can definitely either answer them or point you in the right direction regarding, financial advising, investing. Investopedia.com is a really good website to get things on. Other than that, definitely appreciate your guys' time and love to give out financial literacy information. I can do this all day.
Thank you so much, Kenyatta. So before we wrap up, I wanted to share just a couple of more things with you all. So some of our upcoming events, see if you can see that there. Alrighty, so we have Taste of Robinson. That is coming up on this Thursday. SDEIB will have a table. So that'll be an awesome event. There is a QR code there if you all want to scan there. It looks like first 100 students will get a free t-shirt. We love free t-shirts. So definitely scan and we hope to see you there. Secondly, November 28th, so that's the week after Thanksgiving, we will be wrapping up our last information session with the EAC with Victoria's Secret & Co. So that will be our last event that we'll be having with them, and that'll be at noon. And on the next page, I'll have a code that you can scan to actually join our distribution list, and it'll have the link there. And then just looking ahead, right, we're wrapping up fall, and we'll start with a whole new round of events coming up next year. So we'll be having another 10 information sessions starting in January with the EAC. We'll be participating in MLK Day of Service. We're going to do an event around ageism in corporate America, interviewing in America. So, targeting our international student population. We're going to do an event around mental health. We're going to also do money making moves again on another campus, and then we're looking to have a year-end event. So a ton coming up as we go into the end of the academic year. So if you all would join us, like us, follow us on all of our different networks, you can scan this QR code. This will take you to our email distribution list, and it can keep you up to date on all of our events coming up. So with that, I'll stop sharing for just a moment. Oh, here we go. Any last questions, comments, key takeaways that anyone would like to share as we wrap our call today? You can feel free to take yourself off mute. Share out. I would just say one of the things I'm taking away from the call is you have to just start somewhere, right? It can be intimidating. It can be something that feels like I don't even know where to start, but you all now have resources, right? All of us, our student organization, if there's anything that we can be helpful with, definitely let us know. Anyone else want to share anything before we wrap up?
I just want to say
Going
thank
once?
you. And we're on this road together.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you all so much for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon. We will share some information out after the call, and we hope that you'll also come to our next event. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.